What's up everyone, I'm CallumOnToast, and in today's video, since there's only a couple of days left of the year, I've put together a compilation of some of my craziest wins of the year 2024 with the most creative teams the Go Battle League has ever seen, with over 50 minutes worth of gameplay. Now this might seem like lazy content as I'm just reusing old content, but this has taken me absolutely ages to put together, as of course I had to watch through a lot of my old videos to pick these battles. So what you might notice is that a lot of the battles are just the first battle of the video that they were taken from. Of course, I do start each video with a bang, so it makes a lot of sense, but I have a challenge for the viewers, and that's if you can comment the exact number of times a battle starts with me saying, alright, so heading into the first battle, or a similar quote to that. Now, these are only battles featured from my videos and not my live streams, so if you do want to see a part 2, I need to see your support, because that video will take me even longer to make, and of course, we don't have much time left this year, so if this video gets 500 likes by the time I wake up tomorrow, I'll try to make that video, but if not, then this will be my final video of the year. So with that being said, let's just get into the question of the day. What is your favourite video that I've uploaded this year? Let me know in the comment section down below, and with that being said, let's get into the compilation now. Alright, so going into the first battle, we lead Rayquaza into Azumarill, awful lead, gonna say swap into my Shadow Kyogre, and immediately met with a Ferrothorn. So things couldn't be going much worse for us so far. I will say Shadow Kyogre, very inflexible Pokemon, you should not use it as a say swap, but on this team, honestly, I didn't really have a good position to use it in. I figured Shadow Groudon would be a very strong closer, so I used Kyogre as a say swap. We do at least grab a shield advantage though. Opponent probably never seen a Kyogre in the Great League, so they just respect the damage there. And speaking of, I'm going to respect the damage from a Flash Cannon. At this point, I'm actually going to not throw any energy. Basically force the opponent to try and throw any energy they can, going for a Power Whip, which will allow me to fully Dragon Tail, farm them down, come out with so much loaded energy. We're going straight for the Dragon Ascent. Dragon Ascent unfortunately does get shielded by the Azumarill, but I'm determined to land it, so I'm actually going to shield up the Ice Beam here. And then I should be one Dragon Tail away from the next Dragon Ascent, and this is going to be neutral damage. It's going to hit incredibly hard. It nearly one-shots Azumarill of all Pokemon. We swap into our Groudon, unfortunately met with a Talonflame, which is going to wall the energy here, but Precipice Blades does not care. It nearly one-shots the Talonflame despite being resisted damage there. Flame Charge will be taking us out, but we put them into one Dragon Tail farm down range, and now I can resist it, Dragon Tail, farm down the Azumarill, and I'm able to take that game. But GG's to that opponent there. Into next game, we see Empoleon in the lead, but they're running Waterfall, so I have to get out of there as soon as possible. I was very slow to swap out there. We swap into Kartana, they go for a Hydro Cannon, and they're going to swap into a Gligar, and once again, they're still able to outpace me to that first charge move. I have to shield this. I cannot afford to let the Wii attacks take out my Pheromosa once again, so we're going to throw on the Simpy Tie here, and we go for the Night Sash. The opponent is actually going to shield, and I think that's probably what I needed here, because now I think I've put them into range where one Incinerate will get the KO. We do have to live 2 Wii attacks on our Blacephalon though, so we come in and we just barely get there in time. We can now go for a Mystical Fire as the opponent comes back in with their Empoleon. The opponent's going to use their shield, their final shield. We come in with Pheromosa and we get the Bug Bite farm down. They've got a Charm, Alola Ninetales, but Pheromosa hangs on and makes it to a close combat, which easily one-shots the Alola Ninetales, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to opponent there. Into next game, we see Granbull in the lead. So I mentioned the other day, I haven't been seeing too many toxic teams, but I think that's not strictly true. I think I just haven't been seeing the Bastiodon, Wigglytuff, and Shadow Victreebel team an awful lot, but I've seen quite a lot of Charmers, a lot of Bastiodon as well. Not too many Razor Leaf users, which I think Razor Leaf probably is the easiest of that 3 to sort of counter, so understandable. There are a lot of flying types in the current meta, but either way, we come in with the Simisear, we get the farm down, and they've got a Swampert, so I'm going to swap into my Simipour. The opponent's got a Shadow Salamence in the back, which is very spicy, but also quite easy to take down here as we fire off the Crunch, nearly one-shotting them, then getting the Water Gun farm down. The opponent's going to come back in with the Swampert. I think they're at back-to-back moves, but I'm going to shield this, essentially just to force the opponent to throw their next move straight away, and they do exactly that. Now, Simisear actually has quite a lot of energy already loaded, so I'm going to farm 2 back-to-back Crunches, just barely outpacing them here. We can fire off the first Crunch. Crunch will grab the shield, and then Simisear is able to win CMP up against the Swampert, and from this range, Crunch gets the KO, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to the opponent there. Into next game we see Zygarde complete form in the Open Ultra League, and let me tell you, this team and this game was absolutely ridiculous. So we go for the Sand Seed Storm. I'm figuring that I'm actually going to shield the first charge move because it makes sense. I can get off probably 2 more debuffs before they make it to the next crunch. So I'm going to go for a second Sand Seed Storm. You can see it really doesn't do that much damage up against Zygarde. Zygarde is so damn bulky, but we get to a third one, and this one's actually going to threaten to grab a shield from the opponent. And at this point, they are 3 stages debuff. Crunch, not going to do that much damage, but they will get the Dragon Tail farm down. Now, of course, I couldn't swap out of that matchup because we've got a Thunderous which gets absolutely destroyed by this thing, triple resisting electric, but now they are so debuffed, we get a full Gust farm down. They're going to come in with Registeel. We've already seen Focus Blast from a Thunderous actually one-shots them, but unfortunately, we're not quite as attack weighted. It still does huge damage. We swap into our Thunderous. And at this point, I'm probably just going to shield anyway. Zap Cannon is going to debuff my attack. You don't actually see it yet. Okay, we do see it now. And they've got Galarian Stunfisk in the back. So this is looking very bad for me. Complete wall to me unless we can land another Focus Blast. So we are going to full send it once again. No point in baiting. And the opponent lets that go through. We were debuffed in our attack, but it still does huge damage. And then they overfarm, allowing me to make it to a Wild Bolt Storm, debuffing their attack. And that should allow my Tornadus to live a Rock Slide in the back. So this is still going to be very close. They make it to the Rock Slide coming through. Will not take us out. They swap back into Registeel, and at this point I didn't want them to lock on farm me down, so I'm just going to throw the Bleak Wind Storm straight away, hoping the energy dry on the Galarian Stunfisk, and we get the Gust farm down, and somehow I'm able to take that game. As we go into the first battle, we're going to lead Rillaboom into Clodsire, so obviously not a great matchup for us, and honestly, my entire team doesn't really want to see Clodsire, which isn't ideal considering Clodsire is the most common Pokemon this season, but they are running Stone Edge, not Sludge Bomb, so I'm able to hang on. I'm trying to make it to an Earth Power. The opponent tries to catch the Earth Power onto their Jumpluff, which is a very smart play, but I am just barely able to react in time, swapping into my Shadow Tyranitar, going to shield up the Energy Ball. At this point, I'm not going to take any risk. I'm full sending the Stone Edge here. Stone Edge is going to connect. It gets the one-shot up against the Jumpluff, and let's see, the opponent's going to come back in with the Clodsire. They will make it to a charge move. At this point, just going to let the Tyranitar go down. The opponent full sends the Earthquake there. We are going to come in with the Volcarona, as of course Rillaboom is very low in HP. Going to come in with the Volcarona. We've seen already they are running Stone Edge, so I will have to respect this. This would be double super effective damage up against the Fire and Bug typing. Going to use my final shield, and they come in with a Shadow for Alligator. Now I realize they are at 3 Shadow Claws already, so going to go for 1 extra Fire Spin, then swap and make a CMP tie sack swap there, swapping out and also getting off the charge move, winning CMP and forcing the opponent to be stuck in their own charge move here. So Hydro Cannon gets a KO. We are now going to just barely be able to outpace them to the Bug Buzz, and it just depends, can we Fire Spin, farm down the Clodsire before they make it to another Stone Edge? Yes, we are just barely able to do so, and I'm able to take that game. My attack, that was going to be a very easy sweep for the Aurorus, so the opponent just concedes the match there. So GG's to opponent there. Into next game, we can see an Obstagoon in the lead, so a huge core breaker for the team. I'm going to no-shield the first move just in case they go for a Night Slash and get the boost, but they actually go for an Obstruct there. So of course, Obstruct, really not doing much damage, and yes, they have dropped my defense, but we are taking double resisted counter damage, so they're not going to be able to fast move farm me down, but they then get the Night Slash boost as well, so that is not ideal. We're going to go for Scorching Sands. They're going to double shield their Obstagoon. At least we do drop their attack by 1 stage, but not ideal for us. They're going to go for another Night Slash here. They are outpacing me to these charge moves, and because they have boosted up their defense, unfortunately Scorching Sands isn't going to be enough damage to get the KO, but we swap into Arctobax. We preserve some health on the Sandy Gust, and this is just going to be a Night Slash. We can tank it fairly well, but they come in with Defense Form Deoxys now. As soon as they came in with Deoxys, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is probably going to be a triple counter team. Aurorus has literally no play up against this team, but the opponent is going to throw their energy here, so Psycho Boost will get the KO. I'm thinking because they've dropped their attack by 2 stages plus the Icy Wind, that's a 3rd stage debuff, we might live the Psycho Boost here, and I kind of just have to live this. So the opponent goes for the Psycho Boost, and we do hang on. We can make it to a Scorching Sands, no reason to go for a Shadow Ball there. Scorching Sands gets the KO. We're going to swap into Aurorus immediately, and there is a 3rd Fighting type Pokemon, except This Pokemon is running Poison Jab as the fast move, and this is also just going to be a Mud Bomb, so that does not get the KO. Expect the catch there. So we hold on to the energy, we barely live the counter damage, and we make it to back-to-back Weather Balls. The first one, obviously, no shields in play. The second Weather Ball should be enough damage to eventually, after this lag here, I think the opponent has just quit the app here, take out the Toxicroak, and I'm able to take that game. So despite all of the odds being up against the Aurorus there, we're still able to take that game. Alright, heading into the first battle here, we Solgaleo into a Giratina. Now, this is not a good matchup for me. I did mention that I did just play out most lead matchups, even when we were going to lose, but here I tried to catch like a Shadow Force or something. I don't know, but either way, it doesn't work out. They go for an Ancient Power, definitely not ideal, but they swap into Poliwrath, and do they know about the Solar Beam coverage? We're full sending it here, and it one-shots the Poliwrath. They had no clue, and now we're able to flip switch advantage. They come back in with Giratina, and they are panicking. They could have just gone for a full Shadow Claw farm down, but instead they want to get rid of the Pyro as soon as possible, throwing a charge move. We can now come back in with Solgaleo, and we realise they're running Dragon Claw and Ancient Power, so we don't have to worry about the charge moves anymore, and they even end up shielding a Psychic Fang. So this opponent is in shambles right now. We go for the Iron Head, landing it, dealing big damage. We're going to swap into Necrozma, and they've got a Muck in the back, so no point baiting here. Gonna full send the Sunsteel Strike. Sunsteel Strike connects, and it nearly one-shots them. The opponent just stops attacking there, realizing they're about to get farmed down, and so they just concede the match. Alright, so going into the first battle, lead Gastrodon into Azumarill. This is a fairly neutral lead matchup, made slightly better for us because Mudsap does gain one more energy this season. We're going to go for an Earth Power throwing straight away on the CMP tie with the Azumarill, and the opponent lets that go through. We also get a defense drop, which could be quite significant here, as that might allow me to just go straight for a Body Slam for the second charge move. Once again, going to throw on the CMP tie. Does this KO with the defense drop? No, it barely doesn't, so at this point, I'm just going to let my Gastrodon go down. Not really any point in preserving it here. Azumarill is probably the hardest counter to my backline, so I'm pretty happy to see it gone. The opponent comes in with a Abomasnow. I'm going to swap, make a catch, but I also swap one turn early. That allows me to get a full Incinerate in for free, and that damage is going to be absolutely huge up against that Abomasnow. Now, the opponent comes in with a Shadow Gligar. I'm going to go for a Rock Tomb, grab a shield here, and this is a really tricky matchup. Of course, Dig is going to be double super effective, but I'm going to be very ballsy, cool that it's a bait, and it is the bait. That's resisted damage. Now, I could live the next Aerial Ace as well, but I might as well shield this up. I can now go for another Rock Tomb, and at this point, we're looking to be in a pretty good position. Rock Tomb is going to be grabbing the final shield from the opponent, and now I'm going to swap into my Sliggoo. The opponent's going to bank the energy, but it doesn't matter, as we can now go for a Gonk Shot. Gonk Shot going to be taking out the Abomasnow, and I'm able to Water Gun, farm down the Gligar, and I'm able to take that game. Alright, so going into the first battle, leading Morpeko into a Shadow Golux. Of course, not very good for us. Gonna say swap into my Crocodile and baiting out Azumarill. So, of course, things aren't looking too good for us so far. I'm running Brick Break on that say swap Crocodile. That way I can flip certain matchups. Unfortunately, Azumarill is not one of them, but we do grab a shield advantage as I did over farm. They're gonna go straight for the Ice Beam, taking us out. We can come back in with the Morpeko, and there's no point throwing a charge move straight away. I know that I can overfarm massively, farm up to at least back-to-back Aura Wheels before throwing a charge move. And now, for anyone who hasn't seen Morpeko in action yet, every time you throw a charge move, its form will change, and the typing of Aura Wheel will change as well. So now we've got the potential to nuke a Golurk with the Aura Wheel Dark. So we're going to grab a shield with the Psychic Fangs, the final shield. I'm going to swap into my Krokorok, and I'm going to no-shield this, as the opponent goes for a Shadow Punch that actually does more damage than I was expecting, but the opponent swaps out into Galissapod, and that is huge for me. This is our lifeline. We're going for the Crunch. Crunch does drop their defense, which is very nice, and now we can come in with our Morpeko. Of course, this is a Bug-type Pokemon. They're going to go for the X's, but I can farm up to back-to-back charge moves. I'm going to go and fire off the Psychic Fangs, and once again, as we're throwing a charge move, our typing of that Aura Wheel will change back to the Dark typing, and we can now throw it into the Golurk, coming back in. Aura Wheel gets the KO, and I'm able to take that game. Alright, so going into the first battle, Shadow Rhyhorn into Alolan Marowak. So this is a pretty good lead matchup for us. I'm running Rhyhorn in the lead just because I feel like It's probably the least useful one, but it does at least get to Horn Attack fairly quickly, and opponents probably won't know the moveset. I'm going to go and try to commit to a Mudslap Farm Down, but I realise I'm not quite getting there in time, so we fire off a Horn Attack. Even though it's double resisted from that range, it definitely gets the KO, but in comes a Jumpluff, and this is absolutely awful. But I'm going to try and capitalise on the fact that the opponent might not know the moveset there, so they do end up shooting a Horn Attack, which honestly would not do much damage whatsoever. We also don't throw the next Horn Attack there just because we want to try and force them to throw their energy. If they just go for a full farm down there, then we are absolutely screwed. There's literally nothing we can do. But since they've already seen Horn Attack and us baiting, we are now going to fully commit to the Stone Edge, and I need this to land. This is the only move that's going to deal any damage, and it does connect. It does huge damage. And at this point, I've actually put them into triple resisted Mudslap Farm Down range, so I'm going to commit to that farm down. They do drop my defense, but that's okay. They come in with a Clodsire, so I'm just going to bank a ton of energy, essentially forcing them to full send an Earthquake straight away, and they do exactly that. And now we can reach back-to-back Surfs. And by the way, I completely forgot until like 5 or 6 battles in that Surf did obviously get an energy nerf this season. It does do more damage, I believe, but it also costs slightly more energy, but it doesn't really matter. We take out the Clodsire, and I'm able to take that game. Alright, so going into the first battle, leading Mesprit into Clodsire, so this is an absolutely great matchup for us, but Blizzard is going to take an absolute eternity to get to, so instead of using a shield there, shielding up the Earthquake, or letting it go through and taking big damage, we're going to swap into our damage sponge on the team, which is Uxie. And by the way, if you don't know, Uxie is very bulky, itself very attack weighted, and then Mesprit is sort of just somewhere in the middle in terms of the bulk. We're now going to farm up, go for a Thunder here. Thunder not going to do that much damage, but it does grab a shield from the Mandibuzz. I don't really know if I wanted a shield or if I wanted to just land that damage there. They go for a Dark Pulse. They're going to take us out there. We're going to come back in with the Mesprit. We're still not able to make it to a Blizzard, but this is just the Aerial Ace. So Aerial Ace is going to be no shielded. They swap back into Clodsire, and I don't want to waste the energy there throwing a Blizzard to take out the Clodsire. So instead, we're going to swap into a Zelf, shield up the Earthquake there, go for the Confusion Farm Down, and the opponent comes in with a Shadow Machamp, and that is absolutely huge for me. The opponent recognizing their Machamp has no play into this team, but they lose CMP. They probably didn't realize that was going to happen. So Swift gets the KO here, and I'm pretty sure I have a Blizzard banked on my Mesprit. I wasn't certain if it would fully one-shot them, but certainly after landing a Swift from our Zelf, this is definitely Blizzard range. My win condition here is just to let them farm me down, as we're gonna win CMP with the Mesprit. Blizzard gets the KO up against the Mandibuzz, and I'm able to take that game. Alright, so heading into the first battle, and this is the very first battle I did with this team, and you can see already we've got Play Rough for coverage, and this is a brand new Pokemon, so the opponent might not know what moves we're running, so we're full sending it here, and we one-shot the Guzzlord as it's double super effective. Perfect start to the video, and now the opponent's going to come in with a Clodsire. We're going to go for a Swift here. We throw on the CMP tie with a Stone Edge, and the opponent does throw straight away, so not going to be an Earthquake here. Stone Edge is not enough damage to get the KO here, and of course Mud Shots not really doing much damage, so I'm actually able to make it to back-to-back Swifts here. I'm going to throw the first one, and if we live the Mud Shot, then of course we will make it to another Swift. I don't expect the opponent to shield here. They're probably just going to sacrifice the Clodsire. I mean, they've got a lot of energy, so we're going to come in with the Execute, unlikely to be running Stone Edge and Sludge Bomb, so I know shield. The opponent goes for a Blind Earthquake, which is absolutely fine with me, but they've got Jellicent in the back. Now, Execute is actually pretty bulky, but unfortunately, we are low enough where a Shadow Ball will definitely take us out. They're going to bait. I'm trying to throw on good timing here, and because we're up against a 3-turn move, that's very difficult to do, and as a result, basically, I kind of just have to throw at this point here, as we're at back-to-back Seed Bombs. We go for the first one, grab the first shield here, I'm going to go for the second one, but I think this Hex will be taking us out, which is unfortunate, and now we're going to come in with Phalanx, which only has resisted charge moves to throw. Now, you can see in the graphic, we've got Brick Break. I didn't actually change that until maybe, like, in the second set, so there the opponent tries to make a catch, and at this point, I'm just going to shield this, and because we are running Superpower, I'm going to farm 2 back-to-back Superpowers. I know, of course, Mega Horn is just single resisted, but I think maybe 2 Superpowers would do more damage. So we go for the first one, and you can see even with the debuff to our attack here, this second Superpower should just about be enough to take out the Jellicent, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to the opponent there into the next game, and a Pokemon that I honestly didn't think about for 1 second when I was building this team. Swampert in the lead. And yeah, this is rough. My entire team completely gets destroyed by a Swampert here. So let's see what we're going to do. The opponent's actually going to swap out of this matchup though. And that is huge for me because this isn't even a good matchup for the Togekiss. And now that we land the Shadow Ball, I'm going to try and commit to a full Incinerate farm down. And we get that farm down. We come out with 100 energy. Absolutely huge for me. Once again, full send in the Shadow Ball. And we're able to make it to another Shadow Ball as the opponent continues to overfarm, trying to farm us down. I'm not going to allow them to do that. So instead, I'm actually going to come in with my Shadow Luxray, daring the opponent to go and full send an Earthquake, which they don't do. They just settle for a Hydro Cannon, and now at this point, just going to fully sacrifice the Luxray. We've made sure the opponent expends most of their energy there, which is really nice, as we can now come in with the Mamoswine, and I can shield once and go for a farm down, or sorry, shield once and throw a charge move, but the opponent banks some energy. They then come in with Annihilate, which honestly isn't ideal for me. The opponent does correctly farm up to a potential Shadow Ball, probably going to be a bait here, and they go for Ice Punch, so I know that once they get to 12 counters, I can then swap, make the catch onto my Chandelure, and now I hope that I can make it to back-to-back Avalanches, living one more counter. We get there in time. Avalanche will be enough to take out the Annihilate, and then we win CMP up against the Swampert coming back in. Avalanche will be enough damage to take out the Swampert, and I'm able to take that game. Alright, so heading into the first battle, we leave Shadow Alolan Executor into Bastiodon. Now, when I last ran this team, I actually didn't do that badly, but unfortunately the meta right now, especially in the lower elo ranges, is just filled with toxic teams. Makes it very hard to run spicy teams like this. We're just going to farm 2-7, go for the Seed Bomb, and then I'm just going to fully sacrifice my Executor as the opponent takes me out with a Stone Edge. I realise with Bastiodon in the lead, it is very likely that they've got a Shadow Victory Belt in the back, so definitely didn't want to safe swap into my Wailord. We're now going to come in with a Celesteela, hard punish their swap, and also, if the opponent doesn't know, the thing about Celesteela, which is great over Skarmory, is that it has great coverage up against the Bastiodon, so we're going to go straight for Bulldoze, and if the opponent doesn't know about the Bulldoze, then they're about to find out that we absolutely one-shot the Bastiodon, and at this point, this is game over. They've got a second Grass type in the back, as expected. They're actually not running Razor Leaf, which is a bit of a surprise, but doesn't really matter. I'm just going to double shield, go for the air/farm down, and the opponent just concedes the match there. So GG's to opponent there into the next battle. You can see a Shadow Steelix running Thunderfang in the lead. Honestly, I don't have a clue what I'm supposed to do in this battle. We say swap into our Lunatone. We're going to bait out a Primate, but the opponent actually knows to call the Rock Slide there, and they're going to fire off the Chargy. Honestly, I don't think a Rage Fist would have taken us out, so them going for the close combat is such a smart play, and as well, leaves them with very little HP. We only get off one Psy Wave to get that farm down. Honestly, things are not looking great for us whatsoever, but we're going to fire off the Surf here. Surf should be grabbing a shield. I'd prefer if they just let that go through, but the opponent does end up shielding. I'm going to no shield, and it is just a Psychic Fangs, which is resisted. However, Starmie will not be able to make it to another charge move in this battle, so honestly, it's not looking great, but we do have Moonblast for coverage, and it gets the one-shot up against the Annihilate. They come back in with the Shadow Steelix. Honestly, I have to start shielding at this point. It's just going to be another Psychic Fangs. Psychic Fangs is, of course, going to be resisted, but I'm able to make it to a Moonblast, and the opponent probably going to no-shield this, knowing we do have the Starmie in the back, but because they let that go through, we can come in with the Starmie. They're not at back-to-back Psychic Fangs, so I can shield this up, and one more Psy Wave will get the KO up against the Shadow Steelix, and I'm able to take that game. Alright, so heading into the first battle, lead Gyarados into Lantern. So Nightmare lead, gonna be safe swapping into my Roserade, and we bait out a Pidgeot now. Unfortunately, Dazzling Gleam does cost a lot of energy. They're actually able to outpace me to the first charge move. I figured I'd probably live a Feather Dance, but I don't. That still gets the knockout, and we are looking to be in shambles right now. We're gonna come back in with the Gyarados. I will be able to outpace them to an Aqua Tail, but this is a non-Shadow Gyarados. This will not be enough damage to take out the Pidgeot, and at this point, I just have to fully sacrifice the Gyarados. Hopefully a 2-shielded Shadow Victory Bell can clutch out this game for me. We come in, we get the Magical Leaf farm down, and let's see what the opponent wants to do. They actually kind of come in with their Lantern, and this might just be a ploy to force me to throw my energy, but I'm not falling for it. I'm going to overfarm massively in this matchup, now firing off a Leaf Blade before they make it to the next Surf. Leaf Blade will of course take out the Lantern, but unfortunately they have a Shadow Magnezone in the back. Honestly, not a lot we can do here. I am going to throw on good timing though, so let's see. We're going to go for Leaf Blade number 1, grabbing that first shield from the opponent. We make it to 2 more Leaf Blades here, so let's see. We can grab that final shield from the opponent. we do make it to the third Leaf Blade. This is resisted damage, and it is still enough damage to take out that Shadow Magnet Zone there. Honestly, I did not expect that. The opponent definitely didn't expect that. Alright, so going into the first battle, we see Crocodile into Defense Form Deoxys. Now, this is a decent matchup here. We are running Crunch. Of course, the opponent can be running Rock Slide, and Rock Slide might be slightly more common now that Pokemon like Talonflame are more common in the meta. So they are running Rock Slide. I should be able to make it to 2 crunches before they get to that second Rock Slide though. So the opponent is actually going to settle for a Psycho Boost. So I will let this move go through. Psycho Boost, not going to be enough damage to take us out. They swap into Sableye, but we can now go for Disarming Voice, and Disarming Voice is going to hit for super effective damage. We swap into Crocorock, and the opponent barely misses out on making it to a return. So I'm going to no shield. It is just a foul play. We do live that reasonably comfortably. Crocorock actually isn't as bulky as I thought it was. Typically with like the middle stage evolutions of Pokemon, they're going to be slightly bulkier than the final evolutions just because of how like the CP formula works. But Crocorock actually has a lower stat product, I believe, than the Crocodile, so that's not ideal. But here we're going to come in with the Croconaw, and we let the first move go through. I will shield the next move here. I know the opponent swapped out basically as soon as they got to a Psycho Boost, so I'm going to go and try and swap and catch perfectly onto my Crocodile. The next Night Slash, they are in farm down range, so the opponent probably going to swap back into Defense Form Deoxys. Can we make it to the back-to-back crunches? The opponent is at a Psycho Boost right now. We go for the crunch, and we were at the second crunch there, so we can throw it immediately. This crunch will be taking out Deoxys, and I'm able to Water Gun farm down the Obstagoon and take that game. So GG's to opponent there into next battle. You can see Vespiquen in the lead. So not Clodsire, but another very annoying, very bulky Poison Sting user. At least Poison Sting is going to be non-stab this time around. They fire off the Exeter, and then they come in with a Dunsparce. So not ideal for us, as of course they are going to be double resisting the Astonish damage, but Breum has a very good matchup up against the Dunsparce, so it's not the end of the world. Of course, I'm gonna no-shield this as they go for the Drill Run. I should be able to make it to a Grass Knot here, and this will put them into farm down range. Hopefully I can just snipe with my Breloom, so I'm going for the snipe, and we do get that snipe there. They're going to come back in with the Vespiquen, and I'm just going to no-shield this. I should be able to live an Exeter. Exeter does do a lot of damage though, but I'm going to make it to a Dynamic Punch, and honestly, I need this to land here. Dynamic Punch, double resisted, but it does do some decent damage there, and it will hopefully put them into Astonish farm down range for my Shinotic in the back. So we're going to wait out the Switch Card, come in with the Shinotic, and they should be able to make it to back-to-back Charges. I believe they are one away from back-to-back Exeters, so shield the first one, and then actually stopped attacking there because I was going to try and make a catch, but the opponent actually swaps out there, banking the energy and swapping into a Kanto Marowak. Now honestly, this is a pretty good matchup for us. We are down a shield, but we did have a slight energy advantage, so we're going to fire off back-to-back Seed Bombs here. I believe they are one away from the back-to-back Rock Side, so going to shoot up the Rock Side, go for one more Astonish, then make the catch onto my Amoonguss, able to catch a Rock Side. Rock Side is going to take out the Amoonguss there. They come back in with the Vespiquen. Can we live an Exeter from this range? Exeter doesn't get the KO. Astonish takes them out there, and we are just barely able to lift the Mud Slap damage, making it to a Seed Bomb. Seed Bomb gets the KO up against the Marowak, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to opponent there into next battle. We're going to see Gardevoir in the lead. So of course, not very good for us. We're going to say swap into our Shadow Sneasler, and the opponent comes in with a Guzzlord. Now, we are very glassy. We're only making it to one move, so might as well full send the close combat once again. And again, that way we will give them less farm there. Although, unfortunately, we live with like 1 HP there, so they get off 1 extra Dragon Tail than what I was hoping for. And also, Homeless Henry is going to interrupt the gameplay here. I forgot to put on Do Not Disturb, so just going to swipe that notification away. We're going to just barely live the Dragon Claw there. We're now going to fire off the Avalanche. Avalanche gets the KO. We're going to swap immediately into our Shadow Sneasel, and the opponent stays in. We get the full farm down there, and they come in with a Mandibuzz. So this is looking tricky, but they're on Snarl and not Aerial Ace, which is huge for us as we go and full send the close combat, dealing huge damage. And this one I realized, actually, if we shield this, they're going to have to fire off another charge move pretty much straight away. They can't commit to a full Snarl farm down, and Weavile still has a little bit of HP remaining. So can we go for the Ice Shard farm down? Yes, we absolutely can, and I'm able to take that game. Alright, so going into the first battle, leave Shelder into Pelipper, so this is a fairly neutral matchup, but unfortunately for Shelder, since it does only reach 1210 CP, it's going to be losing basically every neutral matchup in this cup, but they're going to go for a resisted Weather Ball, then swap, catch the charge move onto a Bomb of Snow, but that's fine with me. Icy Wind is still going to be neutral damage, and I will be able to go for a second Icy Wind, unfortunately losing the CMP tie, so I'm going to be shielding this up. It is the Energy Ball, so that is good for me. Now Icy Wind still not really going to put them into farm down range. The opponent is going to let it go through though, so here what I'm going to do is try to catch the next charge move from the Bomb of Snow. Hopefully this is just an Energy Ball, and it is, which is double debuffed and resisted, so doesn't do an awful lot of damage. They're now going to come in with a Trevenant. I will be able to make it to a foul play, losing CMP unfortunately, but this is just a Seed Bomb, so Seed Bomb will not be enough damage to take us out there, and I can go for the foul play. Foul play should be grabbing a shield from the Trevenant, but they can get the Shadow Claw farm down. Now I'm going to wait out my Switch Lock as long as possible, come in with my Laleep, and I should be able to tank anything they throw, but I might just shield anyways. So let's see, I'm going to shield at the last second. It is the Shadow Ball, and the opponent's going to swap back into Pelipper. So I can go straight for the Ancient Power. Ancient Power, unfortunately, not going to deal as much damage as a Rock Slide from a Cradilly, but it still does get them fairly low. We can also tank the Weather Ball. I'm then going to bank the charge move, swap into my Shelder, barely get the Ice Shard farm down, come out with an Icy Wind loaded, which is going to be huge, as this will grab the final shield from the opponent, and here I think an Ancient Power will be enough damage to KO from this range, and it does take out the Trevenant, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to the opponent there into the next battle, and we're going to see a Dragon Tail Milotic in the lead. Are you kidding me? That is really bad for this team. Here, I thought about no shielding. I would live the Surf. I'd probably make it to a crunch, but honestly, I need to get off a lot more damage in this matchup. I'm hoping I can force the opponent to throw the energy here before I make it to the next charge move, but it looks like the opponent can very comfortably Dragon Tail farm me all the way down, and it's not looking too good for me. We're now going to come in with our Zekrom, and the opponent swaps straight away into Chandelure, possibly expecting me to have a better answer to their Milotic, but we don't. But now we've got a great response to the Chandelure. We do barely outpace them to the crunch. I take them out straight away. Now the opponent comes back in with the Milotic here. I'm going to stay in as long as possible, get off a few Dragon Breaths, and then swap into my Kyurem now. I'm probably going to have to shield once. I'm going to shield the first one, and hopefully I can get the full Steel Wing farm down, but it is resisted damage, and unfortunately they do make it to another Surf. We will live this, but we're going to have very little HP remaining, but they've got a Charizard in the bag, and I am full sending Draco Meteor here. Draco Meteor connects, it nearly takes them out, and I will be able to Dragon Breath, farm down the Charizard, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to the opponent there into next game, great lead leading into Serperior. The opponent's going to say swap into Mandibuzz. We're going to stay in initially just because the counters do add up, and then swap into my Galarian Moltres, and you're going to see Moltres can tank 3 Aerial Aces coming from the Mandibuzz if they are running Snarl. If they're running Air Slash, which I don't think I faced any, then of course that does do a little bit more damage over time. But here we're going to go for the Ancient Power. Ancient Power going to hit for super effective damage, but you can see Mandibuzz very bulky, but we actually get a boost there, which is very nice. I'm still not going to shield here, and Aerial Ace not going to do as much damage this time around. We can't overfarm too much, so I will go for the Ancient Power. Hopefully can make it to a charge move into whatever comes in, but let's see what the opponent wants to do. The opponent is going to come in with a Lantern, and unfortunately we're not quite going to make it to the payback despite being boosted in our defense. Ancient Power is no shielded, it really doesn't do much damage there, and unfortunately things aren't looking too good for us right now. So we are going to come in with the Zapdos. We did farm up a ton of energy before we swapped out though, and that is going to be very helpful here as we can go shield up the Surf. I will now be able to make it to back-to-back close combats before the opponent makes it to the next charge move. So of course, close combat number 1 grabs the first shield, close combat number 2 will probably be shielded as well. The opponent probably knows what our third Pokemon is. It's quite obvious from the first 2 that we have revealed, but we're going to shield in this matchup. The opponent baits with a Surf, but that's fine. We're going to overfarm here, go for the Ancient Power. This was a potential CMP tie with the next Surf, but the opponent overfarms. Ancient Power takes them out there, and the opponent only makes it to an Aerial Ace, and this of course will not be enough damage to take out the Articuno. We make it to the Brave Bird, and this hits for super effective damage. It easily one-shots the Serperior, and I'm able to take that game. Alright, so heading into the first battle, the Stantler into Shadow Magnezone. Now, the reason I'm leading with Stantler is because I believe it is probably the most useless of the 3 Pokemon on this team. It doesn't really have any targets whatsoever, so typically I'm just going to fully sacrifice it in the lead. Here, we're able to go for a Wild Charge as the opponent not wanting to go for their own Wild Charge straight away, so I'm able to grab a shield advantage. Mirror Shot will get the KO, but of course we can come in with the Swords Spark. I am resisting the electric type damage, so they're probably not going to go for a Wild Charge, but Mirror Shot, honestly, with a few more Volt Switches, will take us out here. So I'm definitely going to shield the next move, and I do make quite a significant mistake here. For some reason, I thought they were one fast move behind what they're actually at, so I'm going to double shield my Swords Spark. They go for another Mirror Shot. Luckily for me, no debuffs to my attack. But let's see, the opponent's going to come in with Annihilate. I realise I'm at back-to-back Wild Charges, but if I throw, the counter will definitely take me out there, so I bank all of the energy. We come in with the Weird Ear. We're able to make it to a Wild Charge if I went for Stomp there. Stomp, definitely not enough damage to get the KO. So we go for the Wild Charge, taking them out, and they come in with a Mantine. Now, I'm going to wait one turn, wait for the Wing Attack damage to register, because that way, I've now not debuffed my defense, and now we can throw a second Wild Charge. Wild Charge will, of course, one-shot the Mantine, and I'm able to take that game. Let's go into the first battle, and we pick up a Nightmare lead leading into a Gastrodon. So of course, this is definitely not good for us. Mud Slap's absolutely chunking. We also can't even go for the Fire Punch here as it would be resisted. So we're going to go for a Brick Break. Brick Break going to be no shielded by the opponent. It drops their defense, and we do reach a second Brick Break just before going down. And unfortunately, the opponent actually shields that up. Whilst that would not get the KO, it would at least allow me to Karate Chop farming down with the Magmar. But now, unfortunately, this is going to be a very awkward matchup for us. At least the opponent does full send an Earth Power before swapping into a Talonflame. Now this is a lifeline for us. I'm definitely just going to shield, respect the damage. The opponent goes for the fly here, and I'm only going to reach one charge move, so, well, I would reach technically back-to-back Fire Punches, but that doesn't really help me. So instead, we fire off the Thunderbolt, we get the one-shot up against the Talonflame. If they come back in with the Gastrodon, I believe we're one away from a Fire Punch, so I will throw this straight away. And then what I'm hoping is that the Switch Clock will come up in time, and it does come up in time. We can get the snipe with the Magmar, reaching a Scorching Sands. Scorching Sands gets the KO, and they've got a Fire Fang Arcanine in the back. We're able to make it to the Scorching Sands once again, winning CMP this time around. Scorching Sands gets the one shot, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to the opponent there. Into next game, we see a Serperior in the lead. So great lead for me, although Aerial Ace, as you're going to see, non-stab, pretty weak move, and also from a bulky Pokemon, does like 75% of our health, which is insane. But the opponent's now going to swap into an Umbreon. I'm going to full send the Bug Buzz, and that does huge damage from the Mothim. I'm thinking I can't quite farm it down there, so I swap into my Tyranitar. I get the snipe. I give up Switch advantage though, and the opponent's got a Azumarill in the back, and this is one of the worst possible Pokemon we can see with this team. So I'm going to use my shield here. They go for the Ice Beam there, of course. Ice Beam probably wouldn't quite take us out there, but I mean, we kind of need to use our shields because Hydreigon can do literally nothing with the moveset that I'm running. So I fire off back-to-back Brutal Swings, just need to grab the shields here, and I do grab the second shield from the Azumarill. Now, we are going to wait out the Switch Clock as long as possible, come in with the Hydreigon here, and I'm not going to try and swap straight away because typically an opponent is going to overfarm on the first charge move that they throw, but they'll typically throw the second one straight away. But they come back in with the Serperior. This is an opportunity for me to just fully farm them down, but they are running Leaf Tornado, which is annoying because now I kind of have to throw a charge move here, otherwise they will be able to throw another charge move, but I am double debuffed, so I'm going to swap, catch the charge move onto my Mothim as they reach the second Ice Beam. Ice Beam takes out the Mothim, and now at this point I'm thinking, could go for the back-to-back Brutal Swings, but no, I'm going to BM. I'm going to go for the double resisted Dragon Pulse, and the opponent has just Rage Quit here. That's why you are seeing a bit of lag, but Dragon Pulse takes out the Azumarill, and I'm able to take that game. Let's go into the first battle, leading Raichu into Talonflame. So this is a great matchup for the entire team. The opponent is going to say swap into a Shadow Drapion. I'm just going to stay in. We do have a slight energy advantage as it takes one turn to swap out. So we go for the Wild Charge, grabbing a shield advantage, and then we actually swap into our Dedenne. Now this seems like a strange decision, but I feel like it's unlikely that they're going to be running Sludge Bomb. They just fire off the Crunch there, and then we throw on the CMP type, winning CMP, firing off the Parabolic Charge, and the opponent is going to double shield their Shadow Drapion. They are fighting hard for Switch advantage. However, it's not really going to matter too much as we have a Raichu and we've got a Pikachu in the back. So at this point, we're going to come in with the Raichu. They will outpace me to this charge move, so that's okay. I'm going to shield, and then I will will overfarm just slightly in this matchup here. Gonna go 2 over the wild charge, fire off the wild charge here, and of course this will be enough damage to easily get the KO up against the Drapion. They're gonna come in with Azumarill, so they are double weak to the electric typing, and this game is looking like it's already over. We fire off the wild charge, dealing huge damage. The opponent panic swaps into their Talonflame, and we're going straight for wild charge here up against the Talonflame. This is just a Pikachu, but it gets the one shot. They come back in with a Azumarill. We already had the energy for a second wild charge, but the opponent concedes the match. As we go into the first battle, leading Naganadel into an opposing Guzzlord. So honestly, when I was building this team, Guzzlord was my biggest worry because, of course, we got 2 Pokemon that are Dragon types, but they don't have Dragon type fast move pressure, and unfortunately, we can't swap out of this matchup because Dragapult gonna do even worse there. So unfortunately, just fully sacrificing the Naganadel if they have a Fairy type Pokemon in the back is pretty much game over already. And as well, I didn't want to risk losing CMP here and throwing, so instead, I'm gonna let the Dragon Claw go through, commit to the farm down, and they have Azumarill in the back, so it's not looking great. But then the opponent swaps out into a Toxapex, and that is huge for me because Dragapult resists everything Toxapex can throw. As well, we're going for the Breaking Swipe first, and we get the debuff. And not only that, they don't even farm to the Sludge Wave, so this is just gonna be a Brine. Brine is resisted, it's debuffed, it doesn't do much damage. Now we're gonna go and full send the Shadow Ball here. I'm expecting the opponent will just fully sacrifice the Toxapex. They do exactly that, but we still have a chance here. If we can get a bait with the Breaking Swipe, then we might be able to win this game. It's going to be so close though. They go for the Ice Beam. We're going to go and fire off the Breaking Swipe. Breaking Swipe is going to be shielded by the Azumarill. We also get the debuff, allowing me to make it to the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball will connect. It will deal huge damage, and the opponent is going to throw their energy. At this point, this is game over. Guzzlord does have a charge move loaded. I realize they can't store back-to-back Ice Beam, so I go for the extra Dragon Tail, fire off the Brutal Swing, and from this range, it takes out Azumarill, and I'm able to take that game. Alright, so heading into the first battle, Scyther into Serperior, and I do want to mention I actually used an Elite TM to get Steel Wing on my Scyther, just because I feel like it's got slightly better coverage. Obviously, it's resisted by stuff like Water types, but I've got 2 Grass types in the back. But I just think up against a lot of Flying type Pokemon, having Steel Wing for neutral damage, or at least up against like a Gligar or a... Actually, to be fair, a lot of the flying types are also going to resist Steel Wing, so it's not that great, but either way, it's going to do slightly better. But unfortunately, the opponent does make a very nice catch there, catching the resisted Aerial Ace onto Skarmory. Of course, this team is very, very rough up against a Skarmory, but at least they are running Steel Wing these days, so we're not taking super effective damage from the fast move here. We go for the superpower, dealing big damage, and we're also going to throw on CMP, and that's actually perfect for me as superpower number 2. Going to grab the final shield from the opponent. So actually, we've got the Skarmory pretty low and grab the final shield there. I'm hoping we can come in with Levani and just go for a full Razor Leaf farm down. It's going to be incredibly close here, but Levani is just barely not able to do so. So at this point, I'm definitely going to have to shield. Sky Attack will be double super effective. I'm expecting the opponent to come back in with the Serperior and blind throw the Aerial Ace. So I swap into my Scyther, I make the catch, and at this point, I'm just going to go straight for the X-Scissor and hope that there is a Mud Boy in the back. So X-Scissor gets the KO. It's not a Mud Boy, but it's a Lantern, which is nearly as good here. But can Levani actually live a Thunderbolt? It's going to be close. Thunderbolt doesn't get the KO there. We come out with a Leaf Blade loaded, and of course Leaf Blade gonna hit for super effective damage. It will eventually take out the Lantern, and I'm able to take that game. But GG's to the opponent there. Into the next game, we can see Bisharp into a Mantine. So again, another flying type that unfortunately we can only hit for resisted damage, but actually the opponent makes my life easier. They swap into Galarian Stunfisk, and we one-shot the Stunfisk with a Focus Blast. And at this point, I'm assuming they're probably going to run Aerial Ace and Ice Beam, but no, it's Water Pulse. We barely hang on, but now we're actually in a pretty awkward position here. We're going to swap into Shadow Gallade. I didn't want to give them slightly extra farm. We go for a Leaf Blade there, and the opponent's going to overfarm, and this is perfect for me. They throw on the CMP tie. We go for Leaf Blade number 2. They no shield, and at this point, I'm just going to trust in my Ceruledge. I can't really afford to shield this, as they will either outpace me to the next charge move or just commit to a full wing attack farm down. But now we can come in with the Ceruledge, and again, I'm hoping this time the opponent does just full send a Water Pulse, so I'm definitely just going to shield this up here. They full send the Water Pulse, and we get the Incinerate farm down, and they've got a Goodra in the back. Now, unfortunately, resisting the Incinerate damage, we're going to full send the Shadow Ball here. Shadow Ball does get shielded. We make it to a second Shadow Ball. Does this KO? It hits incredibly hard here. Shadow Ball doesn't get the knockout though, but Incinerate gets the KO up against the Goodra, and I'm able to take that game. You can see in that battle, Focus Blast didn't really change change the outcome there because either an Outrage or a Sludge Wave would have been the same thing. But either way, we're going to see a Turtonator in the lead this time around. So a great lead for us. I'm not going to throw straight away. I don't want to throw on poor timing. However, I'm still going to end up throwing on not the most optimal timing as I go for one Astonish, then fire off the Breaking Swipe, but I go for an undercharge there. That's going to allow me to get off one extra Astonish and get the farm down. Now they come in with a Zoom Rail. We're going to go for a Shadow Ball here. And if the opponent no-shields this, I think I will eventually swap into my Dragalge. Yet we swap straight away actually, and the opponent is going to fire off a Charge Beam. Dragalge will be able to tank anything they throw. They go for an Ice Beam. It is super effective damage, but then they swap into Ferrothorn, and this is one of the only matchups where having Focus Blast is actually huge for us because Focus Blast gets the one shot. Typically, Ferrothorn resists everything from Dragalge, but we get that one shot and the opponent just concedes the match. So GG top in there into next battle, Mightyena into Annihilate, so obviously not good for us. Gonna say swap into the Shadow Arcanine. Unfortunately, well, if the opponent stayed in there, they would outpace me to the Charge Move, as of course it does take one turn to swap out in that lead matchup, but they swap into a Toxapex. I'm able to bait with a Psychic Fangs. Can we land the Wild Charge after we've debuffed their defense? Let's see. Wild Charge, unfortunately, is shielded. They double shield their Toxapex. At this point, they've got so much energy. Of course, Manetric's going to have a great matchup here, but I might as well just tank all of the energy onto the Mightyena. Gonna no-shield, they go for a Brine there, fine with me. Gonna fire off another Brine immediately, also absolutely fine here. We're going to swap out into Manetric. We can now go for a full Thunderfang farm down, and let's see, the opponent's going to come in with a Registeel, and they've got zero fast speed pressure whatsoever. Things are looking amazing for us. Of course, just going to shield. They go for the Focus Blast there. We're going to farm up to back-to-back Wild Charges, and from this range, Wild Charge gets the KO up against the Registeel. Could have overfarmed just slightly, but it doesn't make a difference. Wild Charge number 2 gets the one shot up against the Annihilate, and once again, Shadow Manetric sweeping an entire team. You love to see it. But GG's to the opponent there. Into next game, we see Salandit into Greninja. So again, not a great lead this time. At least the bug typing is going to be hitting for super effective damage and not resisted damage. But the opponent comes in with a Shadow Steelix. That's okay. We've got the Drill Run coverage. Drill Run is going to do big damage up against the Shadow Steelix. I make it to a second Drill Run, but it looks like the opponent is going to commit to a full Dragon Tail farm down. Actually, nope, never mind. They throw their energy, and that's fine with me. Although we are running Poison Jab on our Salandit, so that's going to be triple resisted by the Steelix. Honestly, I'm not sure if this is the right play here, but I mean, I don't know what to do. And at this point, I'm also going to no-shield this. They go for Psychic Fangs. We just barely make it to a Poison Fang. Honestly, I would prefer to grab a shield here. The opponent can just no-shield. It does very little damage, and even these Smackdowns are double resisted. So this is certainly not ideal. Honestly, it looks like it's game over. We do at least get the Smackdown farm down, and the opponent is going to come in with their Greninja once again, but they're going to overfarm. We go straight for the X-Scissor, and X-Scissor is going to be no-shielded by the Greninja. I don't know why they didn't respect the damage, but now things are looking so much better for us as we have a shield advantage up against a Mandibuzz. And yes, our defense has been debuffed, but these Snarls, they're really not doing much damage. We're going to go for a Rock Blast, throwing on the CMP tie, grabbing that final shield from the opponent, and by the time we make it to a third Rock Blast, we should have put them into range with the Smackdown damage, where it will be enough to KO. So we're going to throw straight away here. Rock Blast number 3 coming through. It will be taking out the Mandibuzz, and I'm able to take that game. Go 5-0 in that set. I'm not showcasing every single battle in the 16-game win streak, but into next battle, we see another positive lead. The opponent's going to say swap into Talonflame, and once again, I don't have the greatest response here. Of course, Ludicolo, you think running Bubble is probably a good matchup because they can just go for those flame charges. It's actually not that good for us. It's very close, and with a slight energy advantage, they're typically going to win that in the 2-shield scenario, so I definitely don't want that. We're going to go for the crunch here, grab a shield, grab both shields probably, but the opponent will just be able to go for a full Incinerate farm down, which certainly isn't ideal for us as they've still got energy to throw a charge move immediately into my Galarian Weezing. I don't think they're quite in play rough range here, but unfortunately we don't get the Fairy Wind through as we come in. Now we'll make it to a Hyper Beam. I figured at this point they probably are in play rough range, so we take the risk, we go for the resisted play rough, and it does take them out. They come in with a Swampert. We're going to swap straight away into Ludicolo. I'm thinking a Leaf Storm will probably one-shot them from this range, so we are full sending it, and Leaf Storm does take out the Ninetales, and at this point we can live either a Hydro Cannon or an Earthquake reasonably comfortably. So we are going to get hit with a Sludge Wave though, and now things aren't looking too good for us. The opponent makes it to yet another charge move. This is going to be a Hydro Cannon. It barely doesn't take us out though, and we're able to make it to a Hyper Beam. Hyper Beam one-shots the Swampert, and I'm able to take that game. Alright, so going into the first battle, leading our Shundo Rock and Roller into a Drapion. So not the worst thing ever, as I am at least resisting the Poison Sting damage, but of course the entire team will take super effective from Arquetel. So we are going to no shield, then swap into my Boldor, landing a few super effective Mud Sats before the opponent swaps into Azumarill. Now unfortunately, I found that basically every time I went straight Rock side, the opponent would shield the first charge move, and every time I baited with a Bulldoze, unfortunately Bulldoze would be no shielded, and I'd often not get the debuff either, which was definitely not ideal. But either way, grabbing a shield advantage up against Azumarill is pretty nice for this team, because this team, of course, not going to deal with water types very well, and actually just one of the worst parts, despite the fact that, of course, Bulldoze was an awful move. We've also got Smackdown, which was nerfed last season, Rock Slide on the Boldor, which was nerfed last season, and just generally the rock typing is such an awful defensive typing. Weak to water, weak to fighting, weak to grass, weak to ground, weak to steel. All of those typings so common in the meta. At this point, we fully sacrificed the Rock and Roller. Hopefully Gigalith with 2 shields can somehow just carry the entire team on its back here. Of course, gonna use my first shield there, shielding up the Arquetel, gonna fire off the Meteor Beam. Meteor Beam, of course, gonna get the KO. Or it's going to grab the final shield from the opponent, and the opponent swaps into Galarian Consola, and this Pokemon is super bulky, but we've just boosted up our attack here. Meteor Beam, one of the best charge moves in the game, it gets the one shot, and because we've double buffed our attack, we're able to Mud Slap, farm down the Drapion, and I'm able to take that game. But GG's to open there into the next battle. We see Pelipper in the lead, and again they're going to swap into Poliwrath, and this is okay here. It kind of just depends. Maybe if they've got a more attack weighted Poliwrath, maybe we could take out a Poliwrath with the next Dragon Claw here, but we're going to fire it off straight away. Dragon Claw doesn't quite take them out there, and they do just barely hang on, so very unfortunate there. But either way, going to come in with the Escavalier, going to no shield this once again, and this time the opponent does go for the skull, dealing huge damage there. If they come back in with Pelipper, unfortunately we're not able to swap out just yet, so I'm going to go for an Acid Spray. I'm hoping to grab a shield here. Acid Spray is unfortunately no shielded by the Pelipper, but they swap into Registeel, and you'd think, we get completely walled by Registeel, but it doesn't matter. We go for the Ancient Power, and Ancient Power gets the boost once again, and suddenly this is looking doable here. We're going to shield, they go for Focus Fast, they don't even fish for a debuff with the Zap Cannon, so I now overfarm here. I'm 1 away from the next charge move. Ancient Power actually grabs the final shield from the opponent. That's a huge mistake, I believe, because Pelipper was absolutely loaded. But I realized at this point, they actually don't have any shields in place, so I could just farm to the back-to-back Ancient Powers. The first one will be enough to take out the Registeel, and this Ancient Power is going to be huge overkill, but it will be enough damage to take out the Pelipper, and I'm able to take that game. But GG's to opponent there. Into next game, we see Mantine in the lead, and they're actually going to say swap into Quagsire. And this is huge because I do not have an answer whatsoever, but I am ahead on energy. So just going to fire off these Weather Balls here, firing off the second one on the CMP tie, and we now realize as well, we win CMP in this matchup. So here, we're going to shield this up. Unfortunately, it's going to be 4 to the next Mud Bomb, so I will get outpaced to this next charge move, but I'm realizing here, if I just shield this, I can probably go for a full Powder Snow farm down. So I think that's definitely the play here. We get the full farm down just before they make it to the charge move, but they've got a Ferrothorn in the back, and of course having 2 Pokemon double weak to the grass typing with 0 shields in play, and the opponent still having 2 shields, this isn't looking too good for us. But let's see if there's anything we can possibly do. We're gonna swap and just fully sacrifice the Omastar. I feel like Omastar pretty useless here. Power Whip gets the 1 shot. They've still got a 2 shield advantage though, so what am I gonna do here? We come back in with the Amora. We're gonna overfarm here, throwing after 4 Powder Snows, firing off the Weather Ball, and we should be able to make it to another Weather Ball in time. And if the opponent throws straight away here, this might be good for me, because the opponent is going to throw straight away, and I'm hoping I've put them into range where we can actually just resisted Rock Throw, farm them down. So Power Whip gets the KO. Can we get the farm down? Yes, we're able to do so, but it just depends. Can we actually live a Water Pulse from the Mantine? We throw the Ancient Power gets the boost, and that will just guarantee the win here as the opponent goes for the Water Pulse. We now tank that comfortably. We get the Rock Throw, farm down, and I'm able to take that game. Completely destroy me with that Nidoqueen, but they committed to the 2 shield flex, and it just barely paid off. I'm sure they were sweating so much in that battle, but GG's there. Into next battle, some father and son action, and we're actually going to get the boost here up against the Galvantula. So I'm actually going to shield this up. Of course, they're going to debuff my attack once again, but we are still 1 stage buffed, so this Cross Poison would KO, so we throw it straight away, and then we swap into Flabebe, catching the charge move. Obviously, they're going to send a lunge, which is resisted, and then they're going to swap swap into Swampert. So of course, these Vine Whips are super effective, but we have been debuffed in our attack. I go for the Psychic here just because the opponent, of course, can outpace us to the charge move before we make it to the Dazzling Gleam, but that allows them to overfarm in this matchup. Hydro Cannon will be taking us out. I'm hoping the opponent only makes it to a Hydro Cannon up against my Comfey here, but the opponent actually commits to the Earthquake or the Sludge Wave, and they don't get there. And that's huge because they've got Defense from Deoxys in the back. We are, of course, resisting the counter damage. Psycho Boost, Rock Slide, Thunderbolts, they're all going to be neutral, but we can tank one, so I'm going to let the first one go through. As the opponent baits with a Rock Slide, we are now going to overarm just slightly, go for the Grass Knot here, and Grass Knot is going to deal some decent damage. They actually no shield, and at this point I can just safely let this move go through here. They definitely don't have back-to-back charge moves just yet, so we come in with the Joltik, they come back in with the Galvantula. We are resisting the Volt Switch damage, and if they debuff me, I'm actually going to get even more energy as we get the full farm down. We are just one away from the back-to-back Cross Poisons. They don't have back-to-back charge moves here, so we go for the first one. Cross Poison grabs the final shield, and a second Cross Poison will certainly be enough damage to take out Defense Form Deoxys, and I'm able to take that game. So GG to opponent into next battle. You can see a Galarian Stunfisk in the lead, so this is a nightmare. However, they are on Metal Claw for some reason, and I know Metal Claw did get buffed like last season or the previous season or at some point, but either way, it is still definitely not the recommended move. However, I have no idea how fast or slow this generates energy, so I play it safe, I shield, they actually go for a Rock Slide, and then they come in with a Turtonator. So honestly, I'm not too worried that I shielded that because of course the Incinerate damage is what's going to add up in this matchup. So we go for a second Magnet Bomb, grabbing both shields from the Turtonator. Now we can come in with the Magnezone, and we've seen this several times already. Wild Charge is still going to do huge damage in this matchup. They actually fire off a Flash Cannon, which is really interesting, but now we can full send the Wild Charge here. Wild Charge is going to be no shield, of course. All shields are down. We can come in with the Magnemite, and we actually get the Thundershock farm down there, which is huge for me, as the opponent would have reached a charge move, and the opponent going to throw straight away. So this is not going to be an Earthquake, it's just a Rock Slide. Rock Slide still does huge damage there, but we have a slither of hope here. We're going to go for the Magnet Bomb. We're at back-to-back charge moves. We are taking double resisted damage from the Metal Claws, so I do overfarm just slightly more here. Magnet Bomb is going to get the KO, and they've got Galarian Weezing. We are just barely able to hang on with that Fairy Wind damage, make it to Magnet Bomb. Magnet Bomb gets the one-shot up against the Weezing, and I'm able to take that game. So that's going to be it for today's video. If you did enjoy it, please make sure you leave a like, leave a comment letting me know, and as well, don't forget to respond to the question of the day if you haven't done so already. And if you want to see more content like this in the future, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications. That way you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. And if you want to take your support even further, you can now become a channel member with perks including early access to new videos, shoutouts at the end of each video, custom loyalty badges, and custom emojis to use in the comments. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone that has already become a channel member. Your support is greatly appreciated, and with that being said, thank you all so much for watching today's video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.